7 Stories of Alien Abductions. The existence of aliens is a hotly debated concept. The universe is vast, and while our understanding of its mysteries remains relatively small, many believe it is naive to think that we are alone. However, some theorize that a civilization has a peak, and that peak comes far before they are able to learn how to travel through space and time seamlessly. Regardless, even if they can't reach us, if you believe these or other stories of encounters and abductions, they have been visiting us for quite some time. Allagash Waterway Abductions. One evening, 4 friends decided to go on a fishing expedition. Jim and Jack Weiner, Chuck Rack, and Charlie Foltz left their campsite in a canoe with the intention of catching some fish. They left a bright fire to help them find their way back. While in the water, the 4 men saw a bright light and a flying disc overhead. The disc hovered over the canoe and produced a light that consumed the entire boat. The next thing they remembered was getting back to their campsite, with the fire no more than embers. Over the years, all 4 men had reoccurring nightmares about alien abductions. They were all hypnotized and produced consistent stories about their shared experience. They were tied down and experimented on while the others were forced to watch. The Kentucky 3. Louise Smith, Elaine Thomas, and Mona Stafford were driving home after a late dinner in Kentucky one evening in 1976. When they saw a hovering disc above them with a stream of multicolored lights. The next thing they remember is arriving home 2 hours later. The timeline has them leaving the restaurant at 11:15 p.m. and then arriving home at 1:25 a.m. The approximate time they should have arrived home was 12:40. All 3 women passed a lie detector test and have yet to solve the mystery of what happened during those unaccounted hours, the Pascagoula abductions. Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson were out fishing one day in 1973. It had just turned dark when they both became aware of a strange buzzing noise behind them. They claimed that they were descended upon by an oval-shaped ship which produced 3 short, pale aliens. Parker could not recall anything after the ship, but Hickson remembered being inspected by some sort of robotic eye. Soon, their story made the headlines in the local media. The Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, APRO, sent University of California professor James Harder to investigate the story further. He was joined by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was sent in by the U.S. Air Force. At one point, Parker and Hickson were put through hypnotism and, at another, they were even put on a lie detector machine. After completing the tests, both Hynek and Harder came to the conclusion that these were respectable and honest men, and that they were telling the truth. Jesse Long. Jesse Long's abduction occurred in 1957, when he was only 5 years old. Long and his brother went to an abandoned house, where the two were approached by a tall figure. The figure flashed a bright light, blinding the two. After that, both boys had no memory of what had taken place. When Long was hypnotized, it was revealed that he had been abducted and probed. Years later, an object was found in his shin and extracted in 1991. At first glance, it seemed to be only a piece of glass, but some claim it was actually made of a material that is not from this planet. Kelly Cahill. Kelly Cahill was returning home with her husband one evening in Australia. In the sky, the couple saw a disc-shaped object and a blinding light. This should come as no surprise at this point. The two sat transfixed until they saw another car on the road. They continued to drive, but when they returned home, the couple realized that it was substantially later than it should have been. Kelly also had a strange triangular mark on her stomach. Over the years, Kelly was hospitalized numerous times for stomach pain and infections. She also started to remember things about that night, including strange creatures and medical procedures. This fact alone is chilling, but remember the other car on the road that night? The couple in that car had an identical experience as the Cahills. Fire in the Sky. The 1975 story of Travis Walton inspired the film Fire in the Sky. When Travis and his co-workers were coming home from work, an apparent UFO overtook them. When a bright light hit him, he got out to investigate. His co-workers fled, leaving Travis trapped in the light. When the police searched the area, they found no trace of Travis. Suspecting foul play, the police detained the men. Then, out of nowhere, Travis' brother got a phone call. He was back, and he was alive. Travis was found in a phone booth, about 15 miles from the worksite, 12 pounds lighter, with 5 days' growth of beard. He was unable to properly articulate what had happened to him. Shocked, scared, hungry eventually, through hypnosis, he was able to regress and recount his experiences on the alien craft, experiences which, although traumatic at the time, he now believes were benevolent in nature, and not meant to harm him. Barney and Betty Hill. Finishing up this list is perhaps the most famous alien abduction story of all. In 1961, Barney and Betty Hill were driving home when they were approached by a flying disc accompanied by a bright light. They stopped their car and, using binoculars, reportedly saw alien-like creatures in the ball of light. The next thing the couple remembered was being 35 miles away from where they had been 2 hours before. Both of their watches were frozen at the time they saw the light, and their clothes were torn and scuffed. The couple became famous for their experience, and their story prompted others to come forward with similar accounts, which begs the question, are they seeking attention or is this a far too common occurrence?